firstly, let me thank you for coming and to indicate that we are really interested in framing the debate post the debate in Parliament moving forward on the sale of the majority interest or controlling interest in BTC. So this afternoon I want to help to frame the debate on behalf of my party and my colleagues following upon that vote in the House of Assembly. The Free National Movement administration under Hubert Ingraham has made a grave mistake to sell BTC to a foreign group. And you are all aware of the vote, and you are all aware of the fact that I stated at the time they were making a grave mistake in voting for the sale of BTC to cable and wireless. It is a mistake because we have at this juncture a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to transfer wealth to the Bahamian people on an unprecedented scale. The FNM, through its policy of selling BTC at a fire sale price, has missed that opportunity. This is a sad time for the Bahamas, in our view, and we believe that if this subsists and persists, the future generations of Bahamians will not forgive us, nor really understand how the Free National Movement could have done this to our country. I renew the pledge here this afternoon that when we become the government again, the PLP will regain the majority shareholding of BTC and return its control to the Bahamian people. I think that last week all of us spoke well and consistently, and I congratulate my colleagues for that. We were able to rebuff the message of smoke and mirrors and sleight of hand. We were able to debunk all the myths about blue water and show that the Prime Minister's arguments on the points were utterly irrelevant. The relevant matter at hand was the FNM's decision to sell the controlling shares of BTC to a foreign entity, namely Cable and Wireless. It was clear that there was pressure at large on the Prime Minister, because when you examine objectively the case put by the Prime Minister in his summing up, he failed to answer the charges laid in my statement on the sale of BTC. I now mention 2 points in particular that the government can, with the stroke of a pen, reduce the rates to telephone customers of BTC. At the stroke of a pen, they can reduce the rates for the customers at BTC. And secondly, that capital development by BTC was deliberately prohibited by the government. It seems to us that these restrictions were placed deliberately by the government on BTC. It was therefore most unfair for the government then to come and argue that we must sell BTC to a private company in order to accomplish lower prices and to make capital investments. Because after all, I even showed when we were in the government of the day how we reduced prices. There could be no better proof of the pressure on the Prime Minister over the misdeed in this matter than his inadvertently shouting no when he was asked for what his vote was on selling BTC. There is that old adage, and I quote, "The truth will always come out." Unlike the Prime Minister, I truly want to thank the leadership of the trade unions and civil society for their tireless efforts in seeking to save BTC. I want to single out Bernard Evans of the Bahamas Communications and Public Officers Union and William Carroll of the Bahamas Communications and Public Managers Union. I also want to thank Leon Williams for his continuing leadership in the question of public discourse on BTC, for his leadership at BTC, and in this most recent time, his openness in clarifying the issues for the public. Leadership is always a difficult business, but they stepped up and stood up. There are good examples to the rest of the country of what leadership is all about. I thank them again. And particularly with respect to Leon Williams. I think very few people knew the extent to which the Progressive Liberal Party had revolutionized communications in the Bahamas. Very few people understood that everything the F&M government is talking about, telemarketing and telemedicine, could only have happened because we fiberized communications in the Bahamas through the laying of a fiber optic cable throughout the Bahamas to make these things possible. So the question of the PLP's commitment to infrastructure most certainly doesn't arise. I wish to thank all of my colleagues for being present and accounted for, and for voting no, and for being resolute in the face of withering opposition from the Free National Movement. I think we knew we had broken the back of the Free National Movement on this matter when the best they could muster was a less than satisfactory crowd on Clifford Park last weekend. We knew they had exhausted their arsenal. They had little with which to fight. We will have a public meeting to talk about the future before the end of the week. We are preparing for a general election. I'm encouraging all PLPs to go out now and register. The old register is set to close by June of this year. It is important to register. I urge all people to support the PLP as we pledge to restore hope to our country, employment to our country, and return a sense of pride in the Bahamas and in Bahamians. We call it celebrating Bahamian exceptionalism. No matter how the F&M tells the story, the themes of this election will be pride in Bahamians and the Bahamas, and unemployment and crime. Who can overlook the murder taking place on our streets every weekend? And the government, as we've said from time to time, in the face of this, seems paralyzed. And we say over and over again, we support every effort to equip and arm the police. But you need more than that. You need innovation, you need creativity with respect to arming the people of the Bahamas to ensure that they are sufficiently inspired to join the fight against crime, because that is where we went with urban renewal, and that was why urban renewal was so successful. Who can ignore the unemployment that exists, where people are reduced now to begging for food to eat because they have no work, and sleeping in cars because they cannot pay the rent? A reality. This is Hubert Ingraham and the F&M. Roads and buildings not taking care of the people who use them. Openings, closings, tours and cutting ribbons, but not making sure that the children can go off to university because they have cancelled the scholarships program or the loan scholarships program. I am committed to changing all of that. God willing, I will. The PLP as a government will make an unprecedented focus on investment in our young people, the likes of which this country will have never seen. A team of fact finders led by the Deputy Leader has just returned from North Abaco, where we are looking at choosing a candidate. That choice should be made shortly, as will be the choice in Long Island. We intend to run a candidate in every seat. I find it interesting that the Prime Minister is saying that Bambootown belongs to the F&M. I want him to know that it does not belong to the F&M. I want him to know that we will run a candidate in that seat, as we will in every seat, and that we expect to win Bambootown. Finally, it is left to me to thank the Bahamian people for their phone calls and their messages of support as we entered this contentious BTC debate. Our senators will take up the issue next week, or this week, and we will continue to vote no and will not facilitate any part of the transfer of the assets of BTC to a foreign entity. Thank you very much indeed, and I will be happy to entertain questions at this time.